My name is Wayne Capilupo. I'm here with Ken Schwartz from VHB out of Watertown, Massachusetts, to present to the board the current vision plan for Salisbury Beach. I want to thank you for allowing me the time to present this plan. And our goal here, I think, is to be fairly informal. So I would encourage that you ask questions as we go, rather than wait until the end. Just fire away. We're looking for concurrence from the board on this vision plan, which has been modified from a vision plan which was put together back in the mid-2000 area from 2005 to 2007. And it's been revised by pretty much the same group that worked with the town to put together the original vision plan, generally property owners and stakeholders from the beach center area. We want this plan to be viewed as initiating a public debate about the future of Salisbury Beach. There's a lot of questions and a lot of opinions about what the final fate of our beach should be. I think one thing is for certain: it will not bear very much resemblance to what it was in its prior heyday back in the 50s and 60s, where it was one of the top resort destinations on the East Coast, with literally 20, 30,000 people staying at various hotels and motels on Salisbury Beach throughout the summer. I think a more realistic vision is that Salisbury is going to become more of a bedroom beach with a small commercial center right at the current location of the Broadway Mall that will have a mixed-use basis in which the first floor of the various structures will be retail, everything from staple shops, from hairdressers to clothing, to gift shops and restaurants and so on. And then above that will be residential units, which traditionally are a necessary component in order to subsidize the less viable commercial use on the first floor when you have a location such as this, which is still going to be highly seasonal, even though our goal is to make it a year-round living community. We hope for that to be a core community of people that live here year-round, and they don't just come to Salisbury Beach for the summers. We want our beach center to be a vibrant place where there are residents and visitors on a daily basis walking around, patronizing the various stores and shops, and just forming the fabric of its own very community. We know this plan is going to involve a lot of debate, and we welcome that. Again, it's just a starting point. We also know that we're going to require the approval, the ultimate approval of the Planning Board, the Conservation Commission, the DEP, perhaps the Army Corps of Engineers. And most importantly, we need to gain the support of our friends and neighbors at the Department of Conservation and Recreation. They own almost the entire public beach, with the exception of that 70-foot wide strip that the town owns. And almost everything we do will be either impacting them or be impacted by their presence. So we know that that's going to be one of our major goals as we embark upon the next step in this approval process. But we wanted to start right here, and we're hopeful to gain your support for this vision plan this evening. So I'm going to just give you a quick outline of what we plan on covering this evening. We're going to cover the former vision plan from 2007, going to give you a quick update on the zoning overlay and the mixed-use zones that it created that we think remains key to the viability of the revitalization of Salisbury Beach. Ken Schwartz from VHB is going to give you updates on changes that have been brought on by Superstorm Sandy. Then we're going to provide the proposed vision plan or the revised vision plan. We're going to get into the detail about the public infrastructure improvements, including the boardwalk, a comfort station, a proposed fishing pier, a proposed elevated stage and band shell, as well as the ultimate goal of this revitalization is to set the groundwork for the private development, which would be the proposed concept plan and master plan renderings of the mixed-use development. The 2007 vision plan. Now, you may remember this, but I'm going to walk everybody through it briefly. This has the beach center with an elevated plaza and a band shell. This has a boardwalk, but you'll note that the boardwalk is east of Oceanfront South, and it also has a residential development in the area of what is fondly referred to as the old Sidewalk Cafe site. Several changes have taken place since this was originally developed, and I think that most of these changes are going to be for the better for the ultimate project. I'm going to go through those in more detail, but the one thing that I need to get across to everybody early on in this discussion about the reason why this vision plan is so critical and why your endorsement is critical is because in order for the private sector component of this project to move forward, we need to recruit and find a master developer for this project. The prior master planner and master developer is no longer pursuing the project, and so we face the challenge of finding someone to take on that role. And it's not an easy role to take on because it is a very, very large project. And we need a developer that is very adequately capitalized because the permitting process is going to take a significant amount of time and, like any project, has certain risks associated with it, and we don't want a developer that's not going to be able to finish what he started. So it's very important that we can talk to potential developers about the fact that this vision plan is in fact embraced by the town and is something that can be made a reality. Now, this is the zoning overlay map that was passed in 2005. In general terms, it stipulates the zones in which the mixed use is allowed in the overlay zone and which areas it is required. In the area directly along Broadway, mixed-use buildings is a requirement. You have to have commercial use on the first floor of any buildings built on Broadway. On Oceanfront South, mixed use is not a requirement, but the potential for mixed use has to be maintained. So anything built on the Oceanfront South has to have the potential for mixed use. So it has to have high ceilings and the sufficient accessibility for ultimately to be used as mixed use. Now, the rest of the overlay district, which runs from Ocean Street on the south, basically to the start of Old Town Way on the north, over just past Tens Club on the west and the Atlantic Ocean on the east. The rest of that mixed use is all optional. But the key here is that the public infrastructure improvements are what's going to make it possible for us to attract that private master developer that will take on a project of this magnitude. The East Coast has many examples of boardwalks that have been built and have become, the focal point for public use and public recreation. And we think it is by far the single most important component of the public sector improvements that need to take place in order to make the revitalization of Salisbury Beach viable. So all of these are existing boardwalks in other regions that, as I say, provide such a great focal point for passive public recreation and give people, quite honestly, a reason to come to the beach, not just when it's sunny, but on a more year-round basis. And here's a shot of what the Salisbury Beach boardwalk might look like on an evening night. The other component of the comfort station one of the other components of the comfort station that we've proposed is to have a tot lot. And we don't have to look far in order to find an example where there is a tot lot right on the beach, but our neighboring city in Hampton that's always very, very well attended, and it's just another great opportunity for families to provide activities for the kids. The centerpiece of the comfort station would be the bathrooms itself. We envision a very low-key type structure that would just be a single story, would be pleasant to look at, and as in this example here, would provide direct access to the beach, both via stairs and a ramp, for people to be able to use the facility in the most convenient fashion possible. And obviously, the amenity of having nice, clean, modern bathrooms is something that people have come to expect, and quite honestly, I think will just continue to attract more and more people to Salisbury Beach, and more people that are families that want to be able to avail themselves of these type of facilities that are clean and modern and are not so far away as our current comfort station is, that it's really impractical to think that you're going to take 2 or 3 young kids and trundle them three blocks away just to go to the bathroom. A rinse station for people exiting the beach is fairly common now at most comfort stations. This is something that I think is long overdue at Salisbury Beach, a place for individuals, handicapped or elderly people in particular, a shaded seating area where they can enjoy the view of the ocean and the beach and perhaps interact with some of their friends or relatives without having to deal with the intense sunlight that sometimes just, again, makes it impractical for them to so participate. The fishing pier, again, just a typical fishing pier that isn't existing elsewhere. They're typically a long, narrow pier with an area at the end that opens up into the main fishing area where obviously individuals can partake of of fishing and enjoying the resource. Typical band shell examples that we want to share with you, again, things that are not too big. We want to keep things at a modest scale. We want things that are going to be open such that, again, the viewscape of the ocean is not completely blocked out. Now, the private development that is going to result from those infrastructure improvements, or certainly that we're hopeful will result as a result of those infrastructure improvements, as I've alluded to in the past, is a mixed-use project. The first phase of this project involves the so-called big block area, which extends from Broadway on the north to Ocean Street on the south, the Atlantic Ocean, and then Railroad here on the west, with the exception of the condominiums that were built, back about 10 years ago. So this area in here is what we envision would be the first phase of the commercial development of the Salisbury Beach, the first phase of the mixed-use development. Now, that has approximately 200 units as part of the projected build-out. The overall build-out in the overlay district is estimated at about 750 units. That is, when the day comes that it is built out in its entirety, it has the capacity for 750 units. It doesn't mean that that's how many will ultimately be built. That's just the ultimate capacity. And what we're trying to accomplish here is to have as much of this beach built by a single master developer and master planner as possible. Because the last thing we want is for this beach to be redeveloped in a piecemeal basis. So in a perfect world, one developer would come in and develop literally the entire beach overlay zone. But we just feel that is such an ambitious project that it is unlikely that we're going to get a developer that has the ability to take on a project that big. So we're setting our sights on a slightly smaller proposal, which includes the area that I just outlined in the big block, and it constitutes approximately 200 units. This is a plan view of what those would look like, and this, of course, is the Broadway Mall area. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, and ultimately 5 buildings that would constitute the 200 units. We envision, as the zoning requires, that these buildings would in fact be mixed use. That is, the first floor would be commercial use, and these would not. That these would start off at least as 100% residential, but they would still have the potential to be converted to first floor mixed use, a first floor commercial in the future. That allows those under the zoning overlay to earn the parking bonus of 1 space per unit, which again is necessary in order for the project to be viable. So this area here is going to present the biggest challenge, because this is where we have the largest grade difference to overcome between existing grade and what the first floor elevation of the building will be. We don't have the exact engineering done at this point, but in this area here, there will be between a 3.5 and 4 foot grade differential between the sidewalk and the first floor. And so there's a challenge there to be able to get potential customers and patrons of these businesses conveniently up to the businesses. And that was one of the many challenges that we had to address as part of, arriving at a viable plan. Now, as you traverse Oceanfront South, that grade difference actually gets less. When you get down to this area, it's probably only about 2 feet. But nonetheless, it's a significant challenge to be able to get people to get up there, and one of the main advantages to having the boardwalk run this entire length is that you only have to deal with it once. Once people are at that level, they can frequent any one of these stores, businesses, or homes, and then they never have to traverse another set of stairs. Now, this is a rendering of what one of these buildings would look like. This is if you are standing at the top of Broadway looking south. That is looking toward the reservation. As you can see, there is the boardwalk running the full width of Oceanfront South, and pedestrians are able to traverse from a shaded structure area over to frequent the stores all at the same level. Another look of the same building, except in this case, you're standing on Broadway looking toward the ocean. Now, this is another plan where you're standing on Broadway, but at a lower point on Broadway. You're actually all the way down by Railroad Avenue. And once again, you're looking at the ocean. But once you get down to this point, you're no longer in the velocity zone, so you don't have that grade problem. So now you're at a grade where the building floor is effectively zeroed out at existing grade. So all the challenges associated with the grade elevations in the velocity zone work their way out as you get down to approximately Railroad Avenue on Broadway. One of the things that we searched high and low for, literally from Maine to Florida, was other examples of beaches that have experienced some of the challenges that we've experienced in trying to redevelop their beach center areas. This is Salisbury Beach. As you can see, the Broadway Mall area with the bullnose or the turnaround, and this is the area that we're currently focusing on from Ocean Avenue all the way down Oceanfront South to Broadway. And the rest of the overlay district extends all the way over here and down and up into this area here. So we were looking for other examples that could be used as the basis, and although we came across many, the best one of all we didn't have to look real far for, just an hour north of here at Old Orchard Beach. They have a remarkably similar layout with a main entrance coming in to a Broadway-like mall area here with the turnaround, and a big block area to the south and another one to the north. They're about 7 years ahead of us, I would say, because they have already developed this block area here to the north with something that looks remarkably compatible with some of the challenges that we're facing at Salisbury Beach. So this is the Old Orchard Mall facing west. Very similar, as I say, to the Salisbury Beach scenario. They have their period lighting in place already. They have all of their utilities underground on this side of the mall because, in their case, this side was done first. Brick sidewalks and paver roadway, all things that we've talked about doing at Salisbury Beach. This is a view of their bullnose area looking toward the ocean. And again, just some very simple improvements with curved benches and plantings made a very, very dramatic improvement in the look and feel of that area. Now, we are looking at what on your right-hand side here is Old Orchard Beach's first example of a mixed-use structure that was built with the elevated pilings in order to deal with the velocity zone requirements. So as you can see, this structure is elevated approximately 3 feet above grade. And that's addressed by a set of stairs here and a ramp. But again, just a remarkably similar situation to what we face at Salisbury Beach. Here's another view of the same structure that just gives you a sense of what they've done here to create a very pedestrian-friendly area in which they've narrowed the roadway down to a single lane. They don't allow any parking in here, but I sense that we probably will want to continue with some parking in our Broadway Mall area. I think in the past we've talked about reverting back to angle parking, but those are some of the decisions that will get made as part of the public review process. This, again, is looking east toward the water, toward the entrance of their pier. They've got a somewhat more elaborate entrance than what we would contemplate, quite frankly. And this gives you a perspective of how seamlessly they were able to deal with that grade problem. It was just a very, very simple, gently rising set of ramps that get people up and over that 3-foot rise that blends in very nicely with the architecture of the structure and doesn't seem to present any sort of an impediment to the viability of these businesses. I noticed that every single one of the businesses was tenanted, and everybody seemed to be doing plenty of business, even though when I visited it was off-season. It was October, and they were still open and doing business. Also note that these structures resemble what is proposed for Salisbury in that in addition to the first floor retail, there's also 4 stories of residential. So a total of 5-story structures, which, as I say, is exactly what's contemplated for Salisbury Beach. And this is a view of the same structure, but from standing much farther back, such that you can get a sense architecturally of what this structure looks like. And I think it's safe to say that it's very possible that that could bear a very, very similar resemblance to what would ultimately get built here at Salisbury Beach. It has great architectural lines. It's pleasant to look at, and it serves exactly the purpose that it was intended to serve, which is to establish a year-round community-type neighborhood in which the stores and the residents are living off each other and surviving and creating a year-round community out of what at one time was just a 10-week community.